and let's do it. So, welcome everybody to the NetsPress experience. I am your host, Dylan, here with my co-hosts, Justin and David, and today we are introducing a very, very special guest, one that you may be very familiar with, the man himself, Spencer Dinwiddie. Welcome, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you guys? Thank you for
Um,
having me.
of course, man. Thank you for joining. You actually are the first current net player to ever be on this podcast. So that is
Okay.
truly appreciated. We did have Kenny Anderson on a while back,
Okay.
uh, but you are our first true current net to be on the show. So we appreciate you for taking the time. And to get things started, I wanted to ask first, because I know that you are a businessman as well.
Mhm.
So to kind of put things to the side, basketball related, I know that you just came out with this app. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, because you guys are Nets fans, you're familiar with my contract tokenization that I was doing several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was all about just extra value, personal monetization, et cetera, right? And quarantine hit, or sorry, COVID hit. We saw a rise of people trying to work from home, monetize themselves. I mean, obviously, we see things like OnlyFans, Cameo, stuff like that, right? So, doing what I did with my contract had a little bit of a lift to it, just in terms of dealing with securities law, et cetera. Um, but making it more utility versus securities kind of expanded the value to the everyday human being. So, it's going to feel kind of like Twitter. I always shudder to say OnlyFans to a degree, but it's not like pornography or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's based in obviously like crypto stuff. So it's all about personal monetization. A lot of content creators, et cetera, YouTubers kind of get on and make money from different interactions and stuff like that. And it's everybody out here obviously is trying to make money to some degree, and especially ones that are into content creation and can stay at home and do so. My app tries to facilitate that more effectively.
That's awesome, man. So, like, when did this idea begin? I know that you mentioned during COVID. You just brought it to light a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
What was really the foundation of how you got that together? And, you know, when was like the release timing all set up? Who were you working with to get this all set up? You know, what are the interior details on how you ended up getting this thing done and moving forward?
Oh man, anything that kind of is worth building tends to take some time. But like I said, it really started with the contract tokenization process and everything that I learned from that. Like I said, it's a lift to deal with securities, and there's only so many contracts you can tokenize, right? Or get into that marketplace, I guess, right? And then obviously other athletes or entertainers have to be willing to do so. So there is a market for it to a degree, but it's a little bit of a harder lift. But all of that started in 2017, 2018, probably when I started with that idea. And then, like I said, it grew to the more utility, like every man's functionality over the years. Hedera Hashgraph is one of my partners. Flo, Roham is one of my partners. Obviously, I have a full team that works on it day to day. So I'm actually just the chairman now. I've only been in the chairman role for probably 2 years now. I probably passed it off around 2021. So day to day, I don't really work on it as much, but that's kind of like how it grew. And like I said, it just took time. You wanted an app that felt familiar, felt clean. I mean, even down to it being a progressive web app versus like truly in the app store, because Apple will take like an extra 30%, and it's just all types of stuff that you end up learning along the way um, to create an effective model and use Web3 technology while also keeping it looking very familiar in Web2.
Oh, that's great.
That is awesome. So I was taking a look at your website for anybody that doesn't know, SpencerDinwiddie.com, and you kind of give a little bit of like a background story to yourself, starting back to your early days when you just began watching basketball. Tell us a little about those early days and your inspiration from Kobe and Penny Hardaway. What are why were they the inspiration for you? How do you model your game around them? What really drew your attention to them?
I mean, I think with the Kobe experience, right? It's a story of a kid from LA. You know what I'm saying? Like he got drafted in '96. I was born in '93. You know, I started playing basketball like 4 years old. So essentially my entire basketball life, you know what I'm saying, it started with Kobe. Like, you know, and being an LA kid, I legitimately thought I was going to be a USC football player and a Los Angeles Laker. You know what I'm saying? It was like that you couldn't, at 8 years old, like you couldn't have told me like I wasn't going to go to USC and play football. You know what I'm saying? Be basically well, I was a wide receiver, but Reggie Bush to a degree. You know what I'm saying? And then go on to, you know, play in the NBA and be Kobe Bryant and stuff. So I would say that's where that love and tie came from. And then obviously when you start talking about analyzing his career in terms of like work ethic, dedication, you know, all those things. And again, I don't want to say Mamba mentality because obviously it's everybody says it, but just, you know, what you fall in love with and what you can take from your heroes, right? And then with Penny Hardaway, it was more so just the height, the length, the ability to do a little bit of everything. So that was more so like I could see myself being like that because I never was like a huge scorer. Like Kobe, right? I was never like a 35 point a game guy. Like even in high school, like I averaged like 10 and 10 my senior year. You know what I mean? Like we were stacked and, you know, we had a couple NBA players. And so like, that's what I averaged, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's, you know, I think everybody's story with Kobe. I think every basketball fan has their own story with Kobe. Mine being a little bit later. I mean, I'm 21 years old, so I was born in '01. The first time I started watching basketball was when the Heat took on the Spurs for the first time in the finals. So it took me a little bit more time. I was originally a baseball guy. Um, but, you know, one of my fondest memories of Kobe was getting to watch his final game. I really never got the chance to watch him towards the end of his career because of the time frames. Yeah, I was in middle school, so you know, couldn't stay up
Yeah.
until 12 o'clock waiting to watch a West Coast game. But getting to sit down and watch that final game, I think that really truly showed just how important he was to the game of basketball. And I know that his 8/24 day just passed, his birthday just passed, so you know, it's still a topic where we all truly miss him to this day, and the game misses him just as much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely can see the comparisons with you and Penny being, you know, both that 6'5", 6'6" range, that playmaking ability that you bring, which you showed off a lot of last year. I believe you averaged uh, just a little over 10 assists the last month of the season.
Yeah.
You know, what really brought you back to Brooklyn and so much as a facilitator? What made you take on that role rather than the original scoring role that you kind of had prior to, you know, Kyrie and KD coming to Brooklyn?
I mean, the funny part is, and I think this ends up being like also what like the detractors end up hating, but
Mhm.
like I try to do whatever's asked of me at any given time. You know what I'm saying? And that's always been my mentality when playing the game. And because if you do what's asked of you, you give your team and your unit like the best chance at winning, right? So, you know, starting that last year in Dallas, essentially, you know, I was a catch and shoot shooter when Luka was in the game. So for those 30 minutes, right? And I was one of the best in the league. I think I ended up leading the league in like corner threes or some shit like that.
Yeah, you were
Um,
top percentages for corner catch and shoot threes. I know that. That was
yeah,
something a few times throughout the year during your time in Dallas.
yeah. So that was it for the 30 minutes while he was in the game, and then there was probably about a good 18-minute block or so that he wasn't in the game, and that's where it was. You know, we kind of just I either played pick and roll with Christian Wood
Mhm.
or you know I isolated, and that was kind of our offense during that time. And then again, like I think me and Christian Wood were one of the better pick and roll duos probably up until January, and then you know in isolation I'm always like top 10 or so pretty much every year. So like that was the role. Then obviously the trade happens. We come back. It's like the first game I'm still kind of scoring, right? So I think I had like 20, 25, whatever in that first game, and so still kind of had that mentality. And then you know it's a new group. We're all trying to figure things out. And one of the things that was essentially asked of me, and this is while like, you know, our shooters weren't necessarily shooting the greatest to start like that kind of new marriage and things like that. And they're like,
Yeah.
look, you know, like we want, you know what I'm saying, Mikhail to stay going. And that's obviously why he, you know, shot and had his usage rate and all that other stuff. But they were like, Spence, we need you to like keep the guys together. Like we needed you to like, make plays for these guys, like keep them together.
Especially
Do your
Ben.
best at that. You said what?
I said, especially with Ben out, you definitely needed a facilitator. And I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think anybody that could have handled that role any better than the way that you did. You know, you could see that the team was slightly out of sync at times, but what you were able to bring, especially with, you were the league leader in assists for the final month of the season. I think you guys really showed that with as little of practice together as possible. I mean, you guys got thrown together, midway through February, and
Yeah.
it began. So it was nice for you because you kind of were brought back into a system that you understand. But at the same time, with Jacques Vaughn there, you move from more of an offensive style team to more of a defensive style team. So that's something to get used to. You know, having new players around you. It's not like when you left where there was, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Kyrie,
Yeah.
injured KD. This was a whole new team for you, and one where you really took on the leadership role, being one of the older players on the team. So I definitely think that you guys were able to handle that to the best of any ability with the situation that you were given. So I definitely
Yeah. And I mean, I think the tough part too was that like, the group that we had the same expectations of the group that was already there, which was in that kind of conference finals championship type of expectation. But obviously you lose a top 5 player in the world as well as another all-star. But beyond just the talent reconfiguration, it's just, for Dallas to, okay, I'm gonna lose 1 or 2 players, but I'm gonna plug one guy right into that same role. Or, for Phoenix, I'm gonna lose 1 or 2 players, but I'm gonna plug one guy right into that same role. That's a lot different than, hey guys, I know we now have like 4 different systems that we all think, feel, whatever. We're going to try to merge all these together. And again, you can't make excuses because we're all pros, but that's a far more difficult situation than to like swap out a piece. You know what I mean?
definitely, and especially when it comes to kind of bringing in at the time 4 guys who have never played together. Right, you had McCallum, and DJ come in together. They kind of understood each other. Then you had you and Dorian Finney-Smith coming in, which your guys' relationship in Dallas looked great, and it looked like it carried over to Brooklyn. But yet you're right; these are 2 completely different styles of coaching. I know Monty was over in Phoenix, and he really set the tone over there. And then you guys with Jason Kidd, which my favorite player of all time, coming from a Nets fan, that's a completely different system as well. So I can see definitely where the confusion was coming into mid game at some at certain times, offensively and defensively. But like I said, you guys were able to do something that I believe most fans didn't really expect after the 2 trades happened. I think we were all set in stone at the beginning of the season that this could be the year, just like how we thought the 2 previous years prior. And then, for what happened, for what actually ended up happening with these 2 trades and receiving pretty much a brand new team, a team that many people didn't believe could make it far after this year, you guys were still able to manage just 1 game below 500 with barely any time together. So I think that that's something to really build off of, bringing back all of the same guys as last year, adding guys who fit the defensive scheme that Vaughn seems to be trying to build with, Dennis Smith Jr. and Lonnie Walker. And the 3 rookies that we ended up getting this year in Derek, Noah, and Jalen Wilson. What are you mostly looking forward to this year when it comes to the new guys that we've been able to get? The returning players. Cam Johnson ended up signing his deal. And then, when it comes to you, I know that you're in talks for an extension possibly. But what are your expectations when it comes to this team this upcoming season?
That's hard to say. I mean, obviously the offseason isn't over. I know that the entire league is in a holding pattern for Dame and James.
Yeah.
And obviously that could affect what we have going on. But if we do have this team, which it looks like we will, I think it's just going to be another year of kind of coalescing, building. I think, Mikhail will get a chance to establish himself as possibly an all-star, first-time all-star. I think, Nick is going to try to establish himself as one of the premier big men in the league, especially, being contract year heading into free agency next year.
Mm-hmm.
Cam, I think, has some more ball skills than people kind of expected. And so I think you'll see him play extremely well. I think him being comfortable, signing his deal, confident, all that other stuff, you'll see a little bit of a leap there. Because I mean, shoot, quiet as kept. I mean, for those two, for Mikal, Cam, and Dorian, they had never been in another city, in another system. So moving in general was tough. You know, what I'm saying Mikal was going back home because he loves Jersey, but for Cam, like Phoenix was his home for real. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be nice for him to be completely settled in and know that he's at home. Um, and then beyond that, like you said, with the guys coming in that fit the defensive scheme, et cetera. Like we're gonna be a bunch that gets up and down, and then hopefully we have a healthy Ben, and if he's in All-Star form, then you might have two All-Stars.
Oh,
I
definitely.
actually, I actually got a question. So, hello, my name is David of the Nets Nation. Big admirer of you. Watch every game, see all the things that you do. Well, I have a question. So, we've been seeing that you've been working out with Clax a lot.
Yeah.
Have you seen any improvements on the weaknesses he had in his game?
I mean, I've done much more like physical training with him than I have on court stuff outside like playing. Obviously, play all the time. I mean, I think his touch has improved in terms of around the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's phenomenal defensively. Everybody knows that. But I think overall, he's just gotten a ton stronger, more balanced. I think it's making him more forceful on his drives and not getting like knocked off the mark. So I'd say the biggest improvements are probably to his body, his conditioning, able to do it just over and over again versus getting tired, because there were points in the season, last year, even though obviously we were already in March, April, but he was getting a little bit tired and stuff. After getting 2, 3, 4 blocks or whatever, then he'd kind of run out of gas. And I think right now he's building himself up to have a super strong 82.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And one thing I wanted to touch on that you kind of hinted at a little bit before, and I'm not sure if you meant it purposely or not, but I mean, we all know that this entire offseason has pretty much been frozen by Damian Lillard and James Harden, kind of similar to how KD did to us last year when he requested his trade. You kind of gave a little bit of like like we'll see and wait to see how the team's looking and stuff. Is there any interest within any of those two players when it comes to Brooklyn's side that you know of? Or are those more just kind of rumors that you hear and there from the outside of the Nets organization?
That's certainly above my pay grade for sure. On the Dame side, I mean, I feel like he's made his feelings very clear.
Yeah,
And then on the James side, that's a question for management because he was already there. So I don't know if they're looking to, I guess, rekindle that or not. But yeah, that's
definitely.
above my
Because
pay grade for
I saw
sure.
a rumor, probably last week, and I ended up posting about it because for anybody that doesn't know, I run NetsPress, which is my Nets little fan page /
Mm-hmm.
news outlet, and I try and keep up with all of the news within whether it be rumors, up to date news that are confirmed, breaking news, anything that really kind of relates towards Brooklyn. And something that I saw from a reporter named Howard Beck was that uh, Brooklyn, Miami, and somebody else could be a possible destination for Harden. But when posted, took a day, let the fire settle. Somebody ended up coming out and saying that there wasn't any truth to it. So kind of like that off season back and forth on what's real and what's not. So I wanted to ask you and see if you had any detail within that aspect, because based on your answer prior when we were talking about the construction of the team and the expectation this year, kind of sounded like you had a little bit of there could still be changes made. So I wanted to see what your
Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody knows there could be changes made, but you could just be collateral damage in the Dame and James, situations, to be honest. I mean, anytime a star says that they want out, it kind of freezes the board and
yeah,
everybody's in a holding pattern until the star, I'm saying, moves. And then the other thing about like some of those reports that come out, you gotta be careful just because sometimes it's agents leaking information to make their guy look good or whatever. And so a lot of times, stuff that comes out really ain't exactly true. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll tell you like, hey, like, you know, so and so's gonna average 40 this year, and it's like, yeah, probably not.
yeah. No, and I think at least for me, I've been running this page for over 4 years now, and one of the things that I've noticed, at least for the off seasons, is Sham seems to be the voice of the players when it comes to these trade. Woj seems to be the front
Yep.
office. voice. I think we
Exactly.
really saw this last year with KD and his trade request. We really saw these two going back and forth with opposite reports. And like you mentioned, agents like to go out and say, "Oh, expect this guy to have 40," So I can definitely see where that aspect is true, because just over the past 2 years with us, we've seen Harden request out, we've seen KD request out, we've seen Kyrie request out, and then we saw KD request out again. So it's
Yeah.
been one of those back and forth battles that we really have seen the media split 50-50. Shams drops something and says one thing, Woj comes out within 30 seconds later and drops a completely opposite bomb on us. So
Hey man, it's funny. It's funny that you're able to pick up on that. But yeah, it does seem that Shams kind of talks to the players and Woj talks to, what I'm saying, GMs, coaches, stuff like that, agents. And then you got to remember why this happens the way it does, right? Because if we don't have you guys, the fans, our supporters and stuff, like, the league fails. Like you need the fans for the league to succeed. And so part of that is driving narratives to keep you guys, engaged, etc. Right? So, they need you to believe this guy's gonna get 40. They need you to believe, what I'm saying, that it's this drama or that drama sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, like a lot of times it's true, but there's some times where it's definitely uh add-ons and stoking the fire for whatever reason that is, especially because if some guy sells more jerseys than the other, then it means he gets paid more. So an agent can say, hey, my guy's gonna get 40 and you guys go buy his jersey, and then the team kind of has to pay him because he's now a revenue generating asset. Or they might say that this guy sucks or whatever it is, like, when that's not factually true. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
no, completely. I completely saw. Like I said, I saw that kind of back and forth with Shams and Woj last summer, and it kind of got me thinking. And I had heard multiple people being like, "Oh, this one talks more with the agents and the players, and then the other talks more with the front offices." But yeah, I mean, it seems more of like a leverage game, definitely. And then, like you said, you have to keep the league and its fans on its toes. I think in this day and age, especially without drama, you don't get the clicks and the views that you really want to. So I definitely can see your point and where they're trying to keep us, involved, especially during a few month span where the NBA is pretty quiet, right? The off
Exactly.
of dies off. You have your like month and a half, 2 months between the finals and then the off season, and then after the first 14 to 17 days of the off season, there's really not much else until training camp. So I can definitely see where your mindset is on that one. But to kind of steer away real quickly again from basketball, just one last time. I know that you are a father, and you've been able to spend some time with Elijah now, both in Brooklyn and in Dallas. What is it like being a father? I know that's your first son.
Yeah.
What are some of the what are some of your personal takes on like being a father for new fathers coming up, and ones who want to have children in the future? Kind of
Yeah.
explain how that feeling is having your first son.
To be honest, if you can support your child, I think it's the greatest thing ever. I think it's a ton of fun. I think it teaches you a ton about life, about yourself, all that other stuff. If I was in a situation where I couldn't support him and I was worried about basic things like feeding him or whatever, like I feel like it would probably be a really tough situation.
Yeah.
Um, and then each stage is different, right? I would say, the first 18 months or so while he was breastfeeding, like he didn't really care who I was. So that kind of sucked. You know what I mean? But after that, and as he's continued to grow, he's 5 now. Now he wants to do, stuff like that. He runs up and hugs me when I walk in the door, and he wants to drive cars and play basketball and, have his hair like mine, or just whatever it may be that day. You know what I'm saying? So as he continues to grow, and then you see aspects of yourself, some of the witty responses and things of that nature, and I'm like, boy, I ought to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's fun, man, and it's the most rewarding job that I have, and I love every second of it.
When you take him to games, does that really like affect how you play, or do you just want to like show out for him?
Yeah, I mean, really the reason why I put him courtside is just because I want him to have the experience. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
obviously there's a ton of pride there, but I'm not gonna lie. It's not like when I'm actually in the game that I'm thinking about him necessarily, except for sometimes when there's breaks in the game, and then he'll call my name and I'll turn around and he enjoys that moment because he feels in it. You know what I mean? Like if you can say dad, right, and I can pick your voice out of the sounds and noise and everything else that's going on, you know, it makes him feel special, right? So putting him, of course, I was all about him and it being able to have those moments. Um, because how many kids can really say that they do that, and walk around the arena and you know have popcorn and all that other stuff. Like it's a special experience.
Well, one of the things that I saw on your website as well was, when you first signed with Brooklyn, and I'm reading off of this here. In 2016, I signed with the Brooklyn Nets, the place I call home today. Now, of course, we all know what happened earlier on when you ultimately got moved in a multi-team trade to Washington via sign and trade. What was it like, coming back, we'll say in quotes, home to Brooklyn, last trade deadline? And, did you already have your place still here? How was that transition from Dallas back to Brooklyn?
Man, unfortunately, I didn't. I wish I did. I wish I hadn't sold it. I honestly didn't think I was gonna be back. They had a different trajectory and stuff like that. So the thought hadn't really crossed my mind. But if you were to ask me last year while I was in Dallas, where would I, want to go if somebody were to trade for me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the answer would have been home essentially, right? And home to me would have been, Brooklyn. Not New York in general, but Brooklyn specifically, or an LA team, right? Because that's like where I grew up. So to me, that'd be home. You know what I mean? And that's how I view it. And I think coming back in the fashion that I did was also very interesting, just
Mm-hmm.
because like the DC shit was ass, but Dallas I really loved. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like whoa, like it was unexpected to a degree. And then it happened, but I was coming back home, like I said. It was there's a sense of pride that you get when you're familiar with a place and you love your, what I'm saying, coworkers and stuff like that. It's different than just feeling like a job all the time, right?
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting you to be part of the trade. I was excited when I saw you were, and I was like, Spence is back.
Thank you, man. Nah, I mean when they said when it looked like Dallas was gonna be the destination for Kyrie, like just from a asset perspective, like I knew I was gone at that point,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're Brooklyn, you got to get as much as you can, right? And so you got to think about like who are going to be the best assets on that team, um, outside of Luka, of course, because they weren't going to trade Luka.
Yeah.
And so they went and got, what I'm saying, the second and third assets on the roster and some picks. Like that's what you do. And then at the same time, if you at the time we're going to keep KD, then you're going to need a guard, right? Somebody
Yeah.
who's going to be able to get KD the ball, etc. And so that was kind of a no brainer in my opinion. Like I once it was like, oh, he's going to Dallas, it was like, yeah, all right, pack your bags.
I see.
Yeah, no place better than Brooklyn, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I found it extremely interesting because when you look at the timeline of everything that happened with Brooklyn, right? You guys were running the show back in 2018 and 2019. It looked like we had this bright future. We had the assets to make moves. You know, it almost seemed like at the time we ended up moving you ultimately because of the fact that we had Kyrie and Harden coming in. So it was like replacing these guard roles with, at the time, these shining bright light all stars who, ultimately we full circled around it and got you back. I think that was something that truly helped us in the long run because getting you back not only now gives us a for sure certain guard who we know can fit within this system, can do all the things that we need, but also brings back that tradition of, a team that was just building and meshing well together, getting back into the playoffs for the first time in years. I mean, we weren't really known as a playoff team back when you were, playing alongside D'Lo and Karis LeVert, but you guys ended up shocking the world that year and, really fighting. And I think that was really something that kind of drove us as fans to love you guys more, especially that 2018-19 team. I think that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of fans almost now regret letting go of for these stars who ultimately made all of these promises and caused all of these issues. But at the end of the day, we ended up getting you back. And if, now we have McCall, we have CJ, we have, DFS. And I think McCall's somebody that nobody expected to do this. He came over here from Phoenix as a, as a role player, as like a third, fourth option. And he truly shined when the lights came on. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that you especially helped a lot with, being a facilitator and, being the leader of this team. So I think that everything really worked out in the best way possible for us. Because, I mean, when you think about it, you're, like you said before, you're losing a top 5 player in the world and another all-star. You think it's like the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
I remember I got the Shams update. I think it was like 1:08 in the morning, and it's breaking news: Kevin Durant is being traded to the Phoenix Suns. And I dropped my phone, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is it!" I was like, "This
Yeah.
is it. We're back to being like a bottom 10 team and all this." But then I saw the pieces rolling in, and I was like, you know what? This could really be a team that, give it a year or two, give it a free agent, give it a full training camp, give it a full season, give it a trade deadline with all of these picks that we now have built up. This could truly be something special that you can turn around within a season or two. And I think that's where the excitement's really building for this team when it comes to this upcoming season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would agree with you 100%. I mean, in terms of the 18-19 team, I mean, that was one of the most fun teams I played on for sure. Even in 1920, we still made the playoffs. You know what I mean? Obviously, got shut down by COVID. We still made it that year. But I think like when you have a chance to swing for KD, you take it. You know what I'm saying? Like in hindsight, is always 2020. You could say, oh, maybe we shouldn't have went for Harden, or maybe we should have, or whatever. But that's kind of that's what it is to play in that water. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the Lakers swinging for Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? And then pivoting, right? Like that's the way that game goes. But to be able to get, you know, guys back in that type of trade, that really, I mean, you're a true number one away from being a really, really good team, right? Like, let's say we had this exact same team essentially, and like, or the team from last year, rather. So me, Mikhail, Cam, Nick, you know what I'm saying, starting. Let's say you had Royce, Doe, Joe, and we'll say Dennis Smith, right? So you got those 8, but you
Yeah.
drop Giannis on that team.
Oh yeah.
Well, then
You're
you're a championship team.
championship right there.
Yeah, you're a true number one away from being a championship team. You know what I'm saying? And now, obviously, without that, then, guys have to figure it out, play different kind of roles, like, do this or do that, make this fit here, and you're kind of trying to put the puzzle piece together. But at the end of the day, I would say that's how Nets fans got to kind of look at it, right? Like no team wins
Yeah.
without a true number one, right? Like there's not a team in history that's ever really won without a
Mhm.
true guy kind of playing at that level. You know what I'm saying? Even when we talk about Spurs as like a, dynasty and team ball and all that stuff, they had like the best power forward of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like let's keep it a stack here. Tim Duncan's a fucking monster. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, even
So
league they
you
had
said what?
David
No,
MVP.
exactly. They had David Robinson too, and then Manu Ginobili, you know what I'm saying, easily at the time was probably a top 5 shooting guard. You know what I'm saying? Coming off the
Obviously.
bench or not, and Tony Parker was leading the league in paint points. You know what I'm saying? So you got to remember, it takes that guy plus those guys to do it. And then obviously, you got Mikhail in a secondary scoring option role, which it makes him extremely dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Cam, obviously, his 3-point percentage probably goes back up 40, 45, wherever that was. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. So, I mean, that's really, how Nets fans should kind of think about it, and then from there, that should be cause for a lot of excitement, because if that's the only piece you really need and everything else is kind of in stone, well, that's what you got all those picks for. That's what you got movable contracts for. That's why you know what I'm saying, make the war chest what it is. And so if you're trying to win a title, that's kind of probably how it's got to go.
Definitely. And I know that you mentioned, Brooklyn being a potential, like you said, there could be numerous teams who could be that third team to facilitate a Dame to Miami trade or a Harden to the Clippers or wherever he ends up. You know, when it comes to young players that you see in this league, and like you mentioned, a team that is really kind of in need of that true one, maybe if McCall takes that leap, a true two. Um, you know, what player out there? I know Portland's a team that's going to be within that trade. Miami's a team that could be within that trade. You have teams like the Clippers and stuff. Who is that like one young player that you feel one of those teams? If we're involved in that third team, who's that one player that you feel who's young who can be that number one or that number two with you guys, Clax, McCall, CJ? Who's one of those names that stand out to you most?
Yeah, you want me to be honest?
Let's hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
None of them.
Yeah.
They're like to be a true number one, like you gotta win. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gotta be like, because I'm here, we win games. Like think about the Warriors without Steph. They're a regular team.
Bottom five team.
Yeah, you put Steph on that team. You know what I'm saying? Draymond becomes a triple-double threat. And he's got one of the highest basketball IQs in the game, so I'm not shitting on Draymond by any means or anything like that. But, like, the entire team takes shape because that, you know what I'm saying, piece is now there.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And so, there's a lot of guys that can average 20. There's a lot of guys that can average, 23, 24, even 25, right? Like, but there's a difference between doing that and, like, dominating a game, winning the game, manipulating the other team's like defense, breaking down what they do, like causing double teams, making them switch defensive schemes and coverages because you're starting to be that type of dominant force, right?
Yeah.
So there's nobody on. You said which team? You said Miami,
Portland,
Clippers, Portland. In terms of young guys, like true number one. Now you have guys on there that can average 25 for sure. Like Simmons can. I mean, I know people are big fans of the Sharp kid, Tyler Hero.
That's a huge
Terrence Mann, shit like that. Like, yeah, like those are great players, right? Like, I'm not shitting on them at all, but like a true number one. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's only maybe 8 of those guys in the league, maybe something like that. So, and it's not there.
Yeah, I completely hear you. You mentioned a name that I've actually become a huge fan. I've been watching him since he played in high school. He got drafted out of high school. Anthony Simons is just a guy that, to me, when you compare his game and Dame's game, it really looks like Dame was able to take him under his wing and pretty much build a prodigy out of him. I mean, when it comes to his sidestep threes, his driving through the lane, his pull-up elbow shots, everything truly reminds me of Dame in that aspect. And I think we got to see a huge leap from him last year when Dame didn't play those 11 games that he was, ultimately sitting out for towards the end of the season, some injuries throughout the season. Anthony was a guy that within those 11 games averaged 27, 6, and 3 on 48, 38, and 87 shooting splits. I think that's a guy that if he is involved in a trade, say it is with us, say it is with, Utah as a team that's been mentioned to facilitate the third team. San Antonio's been a team of interest. I mean, really, wherever he goes, I feel like he's going to be that guy that can take the leap into the number 2 spot. And ultimately,
for sure. I mean, I think Anthony Simons one of the supremely talented young guards in the game, and fully capable of being a number 2. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Obviously, point guard, but you get what I'm saying on the hierarchy chart, whatever. In terms of talent, production, all that other stuff. And yeah, I mean, shoot, for our team, I think it'd be super special to watch him pair in the backcourt with McHale and stuff like that. And see the improvement there, see how they can mesh together. But even still, with that addition, you'd still be missing, you know what I'm saying, the guy. You know what I'm saying? But I think it would be a lot of fun if that were to come to fruition for sure. I'm a huge fan of Simon's game, definitely.
I think people forget too. I mean, the kid was drafted out of high school. This is his 6th, 7th season in the league, and he's just turned 24. This is really somebody that, if I'm Portland personally, I'd make him untouchable. The fact that he was even offered in trades with that number 3 pick, I think that was a great blessing happening. I mean, obviously, like I've been praising him, I would love to see him alongside you guys. He's he's probably one of my favorite non-Nets in the league at this point in time. But I mean, that whole situation, whatever ends up happening, whatever that third team is, out getting Hero or Simons, they're going to be a good team throughout the future. And I'm really excited to see how all of this unfolds. But I know Justin had a question for you when it comes to like, your off-season work and stuff. So I'm going to give it to him real quickly. Justin, if you want to go for it.
Yo, what's good, Spence? I've been a little quiet.
What's up, boss?
My question for you is, what have you been improving on, like working on this off season? Like, what are you like getting better at? What are you like trying to be great at? Like, what have you been working on this off season?
In terms of on the court or off the court?
On the court.
On the court. I mean, probably just my biggest bugaboo, which is off the dribble 3-point shooting. For sure. That's obviously why when I went to Brooklyn, my percentages dropped, stuff like that. Just oh shit.
Yo, what was that?
Yeah, I didn't know what that was, but just the level of difficulty of the shots that sometimes you get forced into that were different than obviously I had in Dallas. So focusing on that for sure. And then I played a lot this offseason too, because 2 off seasons ago obviously I was hurt, so I didn't get a chance to do that. And I think getting my aerobic capacity right, playing a little bit faster, things like that, are a part of what I want to help bring to the team.
And you mentioned off-season work or off-the-court work as well. And like you just mentioned, too, with your injury 2 years ago, you really haven't been given the easiest road, right?
Yeah.
In college, you got injured. A couple of years ago, you got injured. How do you keep your body in this good of shape? Because, I mean, we've seen images of you this summer. We've collabed on a few posts together. I mean, you're shredded. And to have these knee injuries that you've had in the past, these are injuries that ultimately – have shut down players like Derrick Rose and Sean Livingston for a couple of years. And you've been able to come back and really just be a guy that you can, put your as a third, fourth option scorer, as a facilitator, as a key role player on a winning team. How do you keep yourself in this good of shape? And what have you changed, from when you were in high school and college with these injuries to now in the NBA?
It's a full-time job. You know what I'm saying? Like, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. On Saturday, it was probably 3-4 hours, and then Sundays off. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm got a lift at 6:30. Done with that at 8 something. Then I got PT from 9 to 10. Then I got basketball from 12 to 1:30. May or may not have a massage that day for 2 to 4. Then at night you got another lift, which is more kind of Olympic style in terms of just like lower reps, a little bit more strength based that I got from the PT that I was doing my ACL rehab with. That was a little bit shorter though, so maybe like 5 to 6, 5 to 5:45, some sauna work. My diet's kind of interesting. I eat like 7 things. It's steak, lamb, rainbow trout, salmon, eggs, raw fruits, raw vegetables, water, coconut water, and I cut off tequila, so I only do wine now.
Actually, I saw at the beginning of the offseason you had this huge shipment of cases of wine, and it's pretty much like a wine tasting tour in your backyard, which looked sick.
Oh yeah, no, hey, listen, I definitely drink my wine. Everybody gotta have their vices, but yeah, no, I mean, just timing out the foods, when you can eat, when you can't, trying to intermittent fast a bit, you know what I'm saying? 16 hours off, 8 hours on, in terms of eating, like, just a bunch of different things. It's, if you're really doing this right, in my opinion, obviously it's a lifestyle choice, you know what I'm saying? And so all of those things are a part of it.
Definitely. Yeah, no, my family, including myself, we've been doing that 16-hour off, 8-hour on, and it's done wonders for us. So I can only imagine, I'm pretty sure that you have somebody help you with your meals as well, trainers and stuff. But I mean, the level of shape that you've looked to be in the past couple of years, especially coming off of these knee injuries, it's phenomenal to see. somebody actually be able to take those steps where, like I said, most players in their careers, when they deal with injuries such as ACL and meniscus tears, these are usually career-ending injuries, and you've been able to improve throughout your time in the league, even with these setbacks. So I think that's something that people really don't understand, and kind of underrate you in that sense, where you've been able to.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
well with
to
it.
that point, like, people usually don't come back at all. In terms of the career I've been able to have, the positive things I've been able to do, and even seeing guys like, Nick, Lonnie, Karras, et cetera, adopt my training program, stuff like that. Like, it's a credit first and foremost to Mike G, obviously, because he's the one actually doing the work. But then also in terms of being able to be an example, and seeing guys gravitate towards it, be at the crib, like, adopt those habits. It tells you you're doing something right. If the best of the best are like, we kind of want to be like you in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I take those things as extreme compliments for sure.
Definitely. And I'm actually sending you something on Instagram real quickly, because this is a question that I know a lot of people asked me to ask you. When it comes to jerseys, I think the Nets are one of those teams that the fans really invest in, the look of the team and how they're, whether it's throwbacks or city editions. I know that you just saw it. Are
Yeah.
these jerseys that we could be expecting? Because I've heard a couple of rumors. The past couple of years, we've really been going back to those New Jersey Day jerseys. And I think that's something, when we first moved to Brooklyn, not a lot of ownership and front office wanted to recollect on. And I think that's something that we've seen over the past 2-3 years now, where they're bringing back some of those New Jersey throwbacks. Are these something, do you have any inside scoops on what you guys could be wearing as throwback jerseys next year?
Honestly, if you had asked me this probably like about an hour ago, I'd have just asked the equipment manager, and I'd have got a real answer for you. I wouldn't be surprised if they go that New Jersey route, like that one Cam wear. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that'll make a lot of sense.
We'll definitely.
I actually have a question. So, oh wait, this is kind of off topic, but I heard you bringing up Lonnie Walker and all of them. What do you think about the offseason acquisitions?
I mean, so far, I'm a fan. You know what I'm saying? I think Dennis Smith is explosive. A guy that can really give guys problems defensively. Obviously, he was at one point they were talking about him as a top 5 guy. I know he had his knee injury and stuff too that kind of changed his career a little bit. Lonnie Walker, again, super explosive, right? Had a big game against the Warriors in the playoffs last year, so he's not scared of the moment. The rookies, obviously, I'm a little bit more unfamiliar with, just in terms of how they're going to translate to the NBA game. But in terms of Jalen, seeing him play in summer league, I think super mature, can really shoot the ball. Is going to be able to find a niche really quickly. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Guard Whisperer now for a couple of months. I mean, you do this usually every offseason when it comes to training with him here and there. And I'm actually proud to announce right now that we are going to have him on the show next week, hopefully Thursday. I'll have to confirm a time with that. But, what is it like working with him and being such a high-level, NBA trainer, somebody who understands guards and really can help, mature your guys' games, whether it be within playmaking, handles, shooting? What has that off-season work been like with him, and how does he kind of elevate your game? I know he's been working with Clax a lot. How do you guys really, work around him, and what is he able to teach you guys that maybe helps you improve your game?
The funny part about it, remember I said, like, people, adopt the program? Like, that's my uncle. I've been
Oh, no.
training with him since I was like 11, 12. Like, that's my uncle. Like, he comes to the crib, all that. Like, that's really like family. You know what I'm saying? When I go on vacation, like, me and his son go on vacation together. Like, that's like my little brother, my little cousin. So, that's family. But in terms of why I gravitated towards him when I was a kid, I think obviously besides his expertise, he's honest with me. He had these pointers for me to, improve and all that stuff. And as I continue to see the fruits of the labor, I just never wanted to switch up. I wanted to remain loyal to my family, and it's been great seeing guys gravitate towards him now as well.
Definitely. No, and I mean, I've only been in contact with him the past couple of weeks. He was somebody that I started seeing this off season. I saw a bunch of videos with him last year and stuff, but I wasn't really in a spot where I can kind of reach out to you guys, and hope for responses and stuff. But I've been able to talk to him a few times, and he is a super down to earth guy, and I can't wait to have him on the show next week, hopefully. But one thing that I know a lot of fans have been wondering. Is the progression of Ben Simmons. I know that, you guys have been all over the place this offseason, so I'm not sure how much you've been able to connect with him. I've heard a couple of things that he's, super active within your guys' chats, and his rehab assignments have been going amazing. I know he's starting 5-on-5s hopefully soon. But what do you think a guy like Ben Simmons, I know that, these past 2 years in Brooklyn, he's not been dealt easy cards with this back injury that he's had. Being, a 26-year-old with this serious of a back injury, what do you expect of him? Not so much expect of him, but what do you think that he could bring to this team where, say he's the starting one and you play at the 2, or, say you're starting at the 1 and he's coming off the bench? How does he help you guys, take it to that next level when it comes to his health and his play style?
I mean, I think it comes down to kind of what I said, right? Like, you look at those true one options like Giannis. I mean, I think Ben is somebody who has a physical profile that can match that. Obviously, he hasn't necessarily played at Giannis's level, to a degree, but he's played at a max, all-star, all defensive team type of level. And, if he's there, we now have a real puncher's chance against anybody. What the starting lineup looks like, I do not know. His health, I don't know either. I hear great things. I mean, we text sometimes. I think all signs point to being extremely encouraging that he's gonna be ready to go, have a phenomenal year. And yeah, he is active in the chats as well. Sorry, I'm trying to hit all the points that I remember you bringing up. But yeah, he's super active in the chats. To me, since I've been here, he's been a phenomenal teammate. And I think if he returns to form and gives a puncher's chance against anybody. With that being said, I don't know the exact plan though, right? And then obviously we'll see that in training camp. Some of that's going to be like solved and come out in training camp. Just as he plays and as everybody gets back, right? The guys got to get back from USA. Everybody's got to get to market. We're gonna figure it out.
Oh, definitely. And one thing, like you've mentioned, I think this is a team I think this is probably one of the best benches we've had in years. Like when you look at some of these teams that we've had in the past couple of years with these superstars, I think one of the biggest issues that we had was we really didn't have those defensive identity type players who can come off the bench, still score, but also provide a defense that can really stop these, teams like Boston or Philly and some of the West Coast teams as well when we were, struggling against them in the regular seasons over the past couple of years. But I mean, just looking at a little thing that I came up with, 10, 11 players with over a 105 defensive rating, right? This is a team that's very, how do you think that's going to implement into this season? And, especially with, like you said, Ben coming back, and if he's fully healthy, it kind of really takes you guys to a new level. What do you think the defensive aspect of this game is going to help with your offensive ability?
With Ben, I mean, obviously, I think the more stops you get, obviously, you're going to be able to get out in transition, get easy buckets. That was kind of Ben's hallmark, being able to get it off the glass, get his guys in transition, create pace, create easy opportunities, and then obviously being able to guard 1 through 5. I think he's one of the unique guys in the league that can do that, and that's why I said, Giannis, Pascal, probably really like the only other guys that kind of are in that type of mold. Ben's a little bit stronger body than obviously Pascal. So hopefully his athleticism is right. It's where it needs to be. And then, that helps free up, catch shoot opportunities for me, Mikal, CJ, and make us more efficient all the way around. And now you're talking about a lineup that, is what, 6'6" and up, switching 1 through 5. And again, like, if we don't play a Embiid or a Jokic, we probably really getting a bunch of stops. I mean, that's the only type of player, which is obviously unfortunate that we ended up drawing them in the playoffs last year. But that's really the only type of player we can't guard for real, is that true big body, back to the basket, you know what I'm saying, 280-pound guy. That's the only person we're not really built to guard. So, and that's why we had to double every play, which, puts a ton of stress and strain on not just our defense, but our offense as well, because we're constantly in scramble mode and overthinking everything. But beyond that, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't have a better opportunity guarding the Bostons and the, whoever else.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, if you even look back at last season, the playoffs, every game was close. It's not like you guys were getting blown out. The defense actually, I believe, you guys were able to hold them under 100 points a game. So this was a team that really gave Philly a run for their money. I mean, ultimately we came up short. We didn't end up winning a game, but there was 2-3 games in there that we really, could have won. And I truly believe if, you guys had a full season to progress together, a full training, work together and really learn the systems, you guys could have really had a shot at taking them in a 6-7 game series. And
1,000%. I think a lot of people don't understand, like, obviously how fast the NBA game moves and how, like, that moment of hesitation a lot of times is the difference between making a play and not. And obviously when you know your team, you know where a guy's going to be, all that other stuff, it just kind of, it flows very seamlessly. When you're like, is he going to be there? That second of, is he going to be there? Whether he was there or not, now he's not there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's a factor in how everything goes.
Definitely. And like you said, you guys had a little bit of issues guarding those, true big men, those 280-pounder, 7-footers. I mean, but at the end of the day, you guys were able to hold Embiid to under 23 a game. I don't think he had a game where he had over 27. There was multiple games he had under 20 in that series. So, I know that the ultimate goal out of that series was to stop Embiid and get the ball out of his hands, let other players win the games for them. And I think you guys succeeded in that aspect. That game plan truly worked. And like you said, if you guys were able to kind of get it together a little bit more offensively, that was a series that was easily winnable. And I think, like you mentioned, with a full off season, with a full training camp and a full season to progress together, I think that's something that people don't realize. We're really not that far behind as people think.
No, not at all.
And even last played Boston, you guys were down by over 35, and you guys found a way to come back and win. We hadn't beaten Boston in 10 straight games, and that was even with Kyrie and KD. So I think that personally right there was one of those highlights of the season that kind of had Nets fans calm down a little bit and really be like, this is a team that could do damage. Let's put our faith in them, because that was something that, even these two all-time greats that a lot of us Nets fans looked up to weren't able to do. And you guys were able to succeed and come back and win that game. So I definitely think, to your point, this is a team that truly has a bright future and one that could really do damage. It reminds me a lot of Sacramento last year, where nobody really had any, trust in them or felt that they would do anything. And they ended up being a top 4 seed in the West last year. So I that team in Sacramento last year reminds me a lot of this team in Brooklyn this year. And I really, I wouldn't say I expect big things, but I truly have faith in the fact that you guys can put this together.
Possible.
Yeah, anything's possible at this point. I know that David had one other question as well when it comes to, who is one player that you're really kind of looking forward to playing with this season, or who you feel is going to improve the most on. David, if you want to touch on that.
I mean, yeah, I've seen you just work out with a bunch of Nets players. Is there one that really stood out to you?
I mean, it goes without saying. I've been a fan of his since he got in the league. I said he was, the second most talented guy on the team. I said he had all the tools, all the stuff, 5-6 years ago. And with the offseason that he's having now, I mean, I think Nick's going to make the biggest jump. I think he's going to be supremely motivated, and I think we're going to see a big-time year from him. That's who I'm by far the most excited about, for sure.
I think he was snubbed off the defensive team, but, it's just labels at the end of the day.
Oh, man, the media killed him last year. And I have to go in for a second, too, and defend him, because if you really look at the numbers that he put up last year, my God, that there is no reason whatsoever that he the defensive team. And this is no disrespect to the guys that were on there, but you had Evan Mobley ahead of him in Defensive Player of the Year. You had Bam over him on the All-Defensive team. Draymond, who he's going to be there, but at the end of the day, when you look at Claxton's numbers and the players that he's top five are, I a snub because of the fact that we ended up, ultimately trading those two guys who kind of gave us the identity in Brooklyn as, oh, this isn't such a low level team anymore. This is, a high market. But once we lost those guys, I feel like the disrespect started just pouring in for some
of course. That's the way it works.
Yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow when those all defensive teams came out and you don't even see him being mentioned. I was like, wow, that's truly something that I did not expect. But
guys, I actually have to run. I got daddy duties, but we can definitely do this again sometime.
No worries at all. Before you go, real quickly, I just wanted to ask, who is one net that you would recommend hopping on the pod for us, and if so, why?
If so, well, probably I'd say Mikal, because I think he's going to be the one that gets the fans most excited. So
Yeah,
he's going to be the one they want to see.
We've interacted with Mikal a bunch, and he actually followed us. So he's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's what I say.
Feel free. I appreciate you taking the time, though, and jumping on with us. I know that you have to head out, so we'll get you out here. But we truly appreciate your time and hope to do this again soon.
Definitely. Hit me anytime.
Of course, man.
Appreciate it.
All right.
To everybody that's here,
Spencer.
I appreciate it. If you are new around here, make sure to drop a follow. And, we're going to have more players on here in the near future. We got the Guard Whisperer coming on next week. And, man, that was the episode. I appreciate you guys for coming out as always, and we'll see you next time. Later.